Nick Darr here with Big Z Media. Hope you enjoy the episodes of Business Over Brew, and pleased to have the Riverbend Growth Association as the sponsor of this program. Our missions are kind of the same. Really, we're attempting to educate people about business, foster business in the Riverbend community. The Big Z has been a member of the Growth Association forever, probably back to our inception as a company almost. We have always been members of the Growth Association, have gotten a lot of benefits from it. There's so many networking opportunities you can take advantage of. I've met so many great people just because I've been a member of the Growth Association and taken advantage of all the events that they have, plus just some of the resources they provide you, the relationships you build. Just lots of great reasons to join the Growth Association. They do a lot of great things in the community as well. They highlight a different nonprofit every month. So really, they're just invested in the community here, and especially the small business community, which is what Business Over Brew is really all about, which is helping the small business community, because it's so important to any community to have a thriving business community. And the Growth Association has really helped with that. If you want more information about joining or events that might be coming up, they have events all the time that you should definitely take advantage of. I'm going to give you the website to go to. Just head to growthassociation.com. You can get a membership directory. You can see who's taking advantage of it. You can see about the events that are there, learn more about possibly becoming a member. Or if you already are a member, you can find out what's going on with the Growth Association at growthassociation.com. So just again, big thank you to the Riverbend Growth Association for sponsoring Business Over Brew. Welcome to Business Over Brew. Nick Darr here with Big Z Media. Pleased to be joining you from inside the Great Rivers Tap and Grill inside the Best Western Premier. Terrific menu here, terrific restaurant. If you haven't had a chance to try it, it's a little off the beaten path, but definitely worth your while to give it a shot. Unbelievably good food. I can highly recommend the chicken strips, the pizzas. Everything I've had here has been terrific, so definitely check it out. Great Rivers Tap and Grill inside the Best Western Premier. A little bit different episode this time. We're pleased to be joined by Wood River Police Chief Brad Wells. Brad, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
And you might be thinking, as a viewer, what are we doing having a police chief on Business Over a Brew? But boy, you have really jumped in to economic development and growing the business district in Wood River. So that's really why we wanted to have you on. But for those that maybe aren't familiar, just to give us a quick bio of your career. You've been in law enforcement and been an area resident for a long time.
Right. So for the record, this is
Water, yes,
water.
right. I'm drinking in front of the police chief.
I don't think anybody be wanting me drinking beer in uniform. We actually got a funny story about that. So years ago, I actually started my career at the Wood River Police Department and left, went to the sheriff's office, worked over 23 years at the sheriff's office, and then came back to the Wood River Police Department. But one night, the first time I was at Wood River PD, we had an alarm call at Bojack's, and it was after closing hours. And basically what happened, I think the bartender just forgot to lock the front door, and somebody come in after closing hours, tried to get in, and it set the alarm off, and then they took off. Nobody was in there. So the owner, Bob Aller, if you remember him, we called him, and he lived here in Alton, so it took him a minute to come down. Well, I was working midnights with Rick White and Otis Stewart, and Otis was always quite the comedian, and still is.
Right.
But he got the idea that we would grab empty beer cans and set them on the bar, and one of us would, and it was actually Otis behind the bar, and then me and Rick sat at the bar and make it look like we're sitting there drinking beer, waiting on Bob. So Bob comes in, and we all knew Bob, got along with Bob, and he walks in, kind of looked at us, but really didn't say anything, kind of not to his character, not say anything. So he just walked back, reset the alarm, and then said thanks, and we thought, well, that wasn't that funny, so we threw those empty beer cans in the trash can and walked out. He locked the bar up, and we went on about our shift, and the next day the then police chief, Chuck Nunn, calls us wanting to know why we were drinking beer in uniform at Bojack. So we had to explain the story to
So
him.
you learned your lesson from 23 years ago, so you're not going to do it now. So.
But as I stated, I spent the bulk of my career at the sheriff's office and came back from the sheriff's office to Wood River PD in 2015. And in 2018, I took over the chief of police job. And the things in town that when I worked there the first time and when I come back in 2015, I lived there the whole time, raised my children there. All three of my boys went through East Alton Wood River High School. I just noticed a decline of the properties, and surprisingly, Wood River is not as much rental property as some people think. We do have a little over 30% rental property. But I started diving into and looking at what we could do to improve the quality of life for the people that live there. And when I swore in as chief of police, the thing I told the council was, we've just got one goal for the town and the rest are responsibilities. And I feel like I've been doing this job long enough that we'll take care of the responsibilities no matter what it is. But that one goal is that everybody in town has a good neighbor. And if we can accomplish that, then through our responsibilities, then I feel like we've done our job. And since that time, we've hit the ground running. We've approached how we do our business in a little different way. We are very proactive in our ordinance enforcement. The city put an occupancy permit in place in 2006, but there wasn't any check and balances to that. And when we put the program together, it caused a lot of the landlords and property owners to question what we were doing. And we try to get that message out that what we're doing is trying to make your property better. We're trying to help you be a good neighbor if you do have rental property, or we're helping your neighbor to be a better neighbor to you if you happen to live in that house next door. So a lot of that is similar to the broken window theory, where if you have trash, you have broken fences, derelict property, cars up on blocks, cars parked the wrong way on the street,
Sure.
unattached trailers parked on the street. It's little things like that I explain to the guys and gals at the police department, that if I'm a bad guy with ill intent and I'm coming and I'm sitting on my friend's porch and I see a couple of derelict vehicles sitting around, the grass isn't mowed and there's trash laying around, and if I have ill intent, then it gives me the signal maybe that the police really don't care down here. So if I have ill intent, maybe I'll come live down here. So that's basically, in a nutshell, why we do what we do, is not to be heavy-handed, but we have ordinances in place that have been on the books for a lot of years. We didn't invent these ordinances. These ordinances are there, and no matter what municipality you go live in, they're going to have similar ordinances. So through doing that and taking a more proactive approach to the homes that people live in and the activities that are going on around those properties, our building and zoning administrator retired in 2020, something like that. And the city manager at the time appointed me the building and zoning administrator, just because it was a seamless transition into what we were already doing.
Sure.
And from there, then I started focusing. We had it going towards our residential properties. I had systems in place to do things within the police department and code enforcement. And then I started focusing on our commercial properties. And our downtown was pretty much a ghost town. We had some businesses down there that had, survived and stuck it out. Cleary's, Kristen's, Riverbend Resale, to name others, that were still down there. And I just started contacting some of the building owners down there and just kind of went from there.
I think for those that don't know, it used to be an absolutely thriving business district there on Ferguson and Wood River especially, and it seems like what you're trying to do is bring that back.
Yeah, so two things happened in the mid-'80s. IDOT took Illinois Route 143 off of Ferguson Avenue. That used to be the main state route. And they built the overpass and they moved the state route off of Ferguson Avenue one block over to Madison Avenue.
Right.
And turned it into a nice 4-lane highway. Well, that took all of that traffic off of the downtown district. But at the same time, if you remember, Walmart came to town. And unlike any other town, when you have a big box store that comes in like that, it does affect the mom and pop businesses. And just over time, those businesses either sold, went out of business. A lot of those buildings fell into the hands of those that wanted to use the building for warehousing. And by our code, you cannot use those buildings in our downtown business district as a warehouse. So it was a lot of contacting the building owners, just speaking to them about what their intentions were. And for a couple of years, I rode around with a Ziploc bag full of keys where they just said, here's the keys to it. If you can find somebody that's interested in it, feel free to show it to them. So
Right.
they trusted me with the keys. I actually even had some signs made up for information on this building, and I put my cell phone number on there. And actually, through those signs was how I met Matt and Amy Herron, who opened up 1929 Pizza and Wine, and then just recently opened up C&B Boiled Bagels. Two completely rehabbed buildings, nice buildings, and both businesses are thriving.
Talk a little bit about what just one business, the impact that it can have on a community, and how that maybe relates to law enforcement.
So the foot traffic, number one, the people coming into town, the people talking about your town, a positive impression that you're trying to put on your town. And we still have a long ways to go. We still have a lot of buildings that need to be rehabbed and we need to be occupied. But I'm getting phone calls now from places that you'd have never thought we'd have gotten phone calls before.
Right.
And Matt and Amy Herron have really helped bring that along. They're very good at marketing themselves and what they do. We've got the burger bar that's down there. We've got a Mexican restaurant that used to be the old Kumar's restaurant. That building's going through a complete rehab.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to take down 3 buildings last year, a fourth one or another one the year before that, and then I've got 2 more that are slated for demolition that they're not candidates for rehab.
Right.
But luckily, where these buildings are situated, they're actually in an area where the building owner next to it could potentially put a patio type atmosphere that, going through COVID, the garage door atmosphere where you have the outdoor dining or the outdoor seating is becoming really popular. So what was a bad thing, it can be turned into a good thing now in our downtown district. And by doing so economically, you're bringing in a lot more businesses. That brings in a lot more attractions to your other areas, which we're starting to see that also.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the more economically solvent you are as a city, the more beneficial it is to the employees that work there.
Sure.
And police work's so competitive now. You got so many people
Right.
that don't want to go into this line of work.
Yeah.
That if you're not at the level where you can compete with some of the other bigger towns with the salaries and the benefits, going from one department to another is a lot easier now than what it once was.
One of the guests we had on today talked about vision and how important that is to a business or to a municipality or whatever the case may be. Talk about what the vision is for Wood River in the next 5 to 10 years.
So we recently just finished our comprehensive plan for the city. The last time a comprehensive plan had been written for the city was in 1968. There was some
Might have needed updated a little bit then.
Exactly. There were some partial plans that was put into place, the I-255 corridor, but this was a full comprehensive plan. We hired Moran Economic Development out of Edwardsville, and it took us about 14, 15 months to actually work through that document. We involved the Planning Commission, got them involved, and it's really a great document. Spells out what the city is, what the city was, and where we would like the city to go. And obviously that's a working document. So
Right.
We'll pull that document off the shelf continuously just to update it, just to keep us on that track of where we'd like to go. In the same time, while we were doing this, we actually developed a master bicycle pedestrian plan. And what we'd like to do is to bring the Madison County Transit bike trail system through Wood River. So the bike trails currently on the west side of the county don't connect to the bike trails on the east side of the county.
Right.
So the closest bike trail, we do have a small part of it that travels on the levee on the west side of town on the river. And then the next part where you can actually get on the bike trail is the Goshen Trail out in Wanda. So we went through, and in order to receive grants to help you build that trail, you actually have to have a plan in place. So through the help of the Metro East Park District and Madison County Transit, we were able to put that document together. We actually hired Heartland's Conservancy to help us do that. And Laura Lyon and her group did a fantastic job for us on that plan. Had a lot of community engagement, had a lot of surveys that went out. Everybody in Wood River was really excited over the fact that we are at least looking at that. So we'd like to run the bike trail uh, through Envirotech Park, and then work it around where it actually connects to Camp Du Bois, and then Camp Du Bois to downtown, and then from there, we would like to have a dedicated bike trail eventually from downtown up to Belt Park. Until we could actually get the dedicated trail, we would have to use a shared roadway type system and striping and things like that.
Sure.
But then Belt Park, actually, we would like to connect it to the Goshen Trail.
Are those plans available for public consumption? Can people go look at those?
Yeah, the Master Bicycle Pedestrian Plan and the Comprehensive Plan are on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely check those out if you're interested. I just think it's you guys are being very proactive in trying to grow the business community. And one thing I have preached for years, working with small businesses, is how important they are to a local community in terms of, the people that give to local charities are, frankly, typically small business owners. They're the ones that are sponsoring Little League teams and really involved in the community are, the small business owners. So you guys are doing a great job, I think, of just being proactive and trying to bring those people to town. So just talk about some of the things you've done to try to do that, other than, I know you're doing signs and things like that. But
Yeah, so there was a downtown business group that was in place. Andy and Katie Russell, they kind of helped spearhead that. And then there's a Wood River Enrichment Network too. And these are just downtown business owners and also citizens from Wood River that were trying for the betterment of the city, trying to bring movie nights to the city, community involvement.
Sure.
And we then started engaging very heavily with what those groups were doing. And we've gotten the street festivals going now, the food truck festivals going. What actually hit this home for me was right when COVID hit in 2020 was right at the time when I was taking over the building and zoning administrator. And that Halloween, the trick-or-treating was pretty well canceled. Well, the downtown business owners wanted to do something for the kids, so they requested permission to put tables out on the sidewalks, put candy out there where the kids could just come up and grab the candy and go on to the next one. We didn't have a whole lot downtown at that time. And so we blocked it off all the way from 3rd Street all the way down to Old St. Louis Road where Rustic Roots is. And they did it on the Wednesday night before Halloween. And it was the type of night that if a parent had an excuse to not bring their kids out, they had every excuse in the world because it was cold and it was raining. It was a nasty, nasty night. But so we had the fire department block off one end, we had police cars blocking off the other intersections. And I've got pictures of people just on both sides of the sidewalk just packed. So it really hit it home that if we would put the right thing down here, people are going to respond to this. And since that time, we've been working on what can we do better for our downtown? What can we do to make this better? Our streetscape, Steve Palin in the past has applied for the streetscapes grants. He's already repaired the sidewalks, the lighting, put the sign across, and really trying to get the infrastructure in place that we can now start on the buildings to rehab those and bring those back. So, and it's just a lot of conversations that we've had with developers. We're working with a couple of really good developers right now that we explained the vision of what we're wanting to do, what we want this to look like, and they've grasped a hold of that, and it's really been exciting to sit back and watch.
Well, I don't know that there's anything more important that a municipality can do really than being pro-business and working to help local businesses and small businesses prosper, come to town. You guys are certainly doing that. So congrats to you on that effort. And I just think it's definitely a worthwhile endeavor, and really appreciate what you're doing for Wood River and all you have done for Wood River. So thanks so much for coming on the show. Anything I missed or anything that we need to touch on before we wrap it up?
This weekend, we're actually having our 5K run. We started our 5K run a few years ago, and we actually had the first one up at Belt Park when the triathlon went away. And then we moved the second one, we actually moved it to downtown, but we took a swing and a miss, I call it, with our downtown business owners, because we actually did that on Shop Local Saturday.
Right.
And they asked us, please don't do that again, because, we try to bring people down here that are actually coming here for the business, and we had the roads blocked off. So
Sure.
So what we did was we actually moved it to this week, which is actually Police Week, which we thought it would be fitting. So we're actually doing our 5K race, registration at noon, race starts at 1, and then After that, the Economic Development Committee is actually going to have a festival there from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Just that story right there, though, is a great example of how you're listening to local business owners about what their needs are and how you guys can help. So I think, even though maybe that was, you look back and say that was a swing and a miss, it still shows how you guys are not just tone deaf to what's going on. You're getting input. That's important.
Yeah, and it's all a start. So we had Santa Claus at that first one, and it was packed for all day long. And, and that all started from a friend of mine, Chris Stanley. He was actually on our council a few years back. And he said, I tried to find a place to take my grandkids to see Santa Claus, and we didn't have anywhere. So since he's made that comment, the last 2 years, we've actually had Santa Claus downtown on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We didn't have the race last year, but we actually carved out a building, brought Santa Claus in, and the people loved it. So we want to continue that, where we bring Santa Claus to downtown. It's just those things that keeps a community binded.
It's not one silver bullet. It's a lot of little things that add up to making a prosperous community. So, well, Wood River Chief Brad Wells, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it, and thanks for all you do for Wood River.
Thanks, Nick.